I think it's our 4th or 5th year of doing this college roundtable. This is something that for Rich and I and the entire golf room team, it's something we're super passionate about. Junior golf is like where our heart is at. And I know that coming from my experience and my story playing college golf with Richie at Seton Hall, these waters of college golf, or how to play college golf and junior golf, are like super confusing. So so much so that like Rich and I are working on trying to create businesses to like help you guys navigate this thing, because it's like, what tournaments do you play in? When do you write college letters? When's it start? How many schools do you write? What schools do you write? All that stuff can be super, super confusing. So if you're confused, good news, you're in the majority, and which is why we're doing this. So first and foremost, I want to introduce our coaches. We're going to give a little bit of an icebreaker to do it. The question that I want to pose to you is, if you could be a superhero, this is the only question that they came for, is if you could be a superhero, what superhero would you be, and your name, and then the college, maybe like how long you've been there.
Hi everybody, Grant Wallace. I'm at Kenyon College, been there 11 years. Superhero, Superman, obviously, because why not? Is that another question?
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, how long you been at Kenyon?
11 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My name's Lauren Grogan. I'm the men's and women's coach at Denison University. In my 4th year there, and probably Flash, because I spent a lot of time driving, and if I didn't have to drive the van all the time, I could get to turn this a lot quicker because of school.
I knew Denison was a high academic school. That's smart.
I'm Rich Brazo, Second Nine Golf, used to coach at Seton Hall, where Kyle and I went, and then also at the United States Military Academy. I would say I think he's a superhero, Harry Potter.
Why?
The invisibility cloak.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah. And the wand.
I respect that.
Allie Green, I'm with the University of Dayton. I coach the women's team there. I am just in the middle of my 2nd season with the program, and I would probably have to say Superwoman. Just women, right?
Right.
So,
Giddy up.
Love that.
Brian Arlinghouse at Xavier University, in the middle of my 2nd year at Xavier, and I would pick Iron Man because that's the right answer. Harry Potter is definitely a witch.
He's into sorcery, Coach.
Wizard. All right.
Hey y'all, I'm Jay Mosley, men's golf coach at Ohio State. Obviously not from here, as you can tell by my accent, but I've been here for 8 years. And I'm just impressed that no one said what I was going to, which is Captain America, because he's clearly got the greatest name.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And he's jacked. Right. So thank you guys so much for coming. The first thing I want to do, just to kind of set the table, because we kind of have players in here that are like from all walks of life. Like we've got some players in here that are in 4th grade, and then some players in here that are like seniors in high school. So the first thing I want to just say is I'm going to ask Rich a question just to educate us. First on because we're going to use some of these terms throughout the hour or so, and we will leave about 10 minutes at the end for questions for parents. So if you guys do thinking, or players think about it, just write it down and be sure to take notes. But Rich, can you explain, 1, what junior golf scoreboard is, and then 2, the differences between, because we've kind of got all divisions here, the differences between Division I, Division II, and then Division III golf?
Yeah, so I think maybe we start with the second question first. Their Division I, for the most part, is going to be a lot of the schools you guys watch on TV, right? That play basketball and football on TV, or baseball on TV. That being said, there's 294 Division I men's golf programs and 244 women's, I think, ish. So the point being that it varies wildly, right? So there's, the bottom 50 Division I programs are probably just like the top 25 or 50 Division III programs. A couple of the main differences would be Division I schools are typically kind of state schools, okay, Ohio State or Dayton or places like that. High-end academic schools like the Ivy League and Patriot League are in Division I. Division I can give you scholarships. Pretty big misconception on that. I think there might be a question on that later, but a couple of the numbers are in Division I men's golf, teams can have 4.5 scholarships within the team. In Division I women's golf, they can have 6. It's 3.8 and 4.8 in Division II. And the biggest difference is that in Division III, there's no athletic scholarship, right? So that it would be, and Division III schools are largely kind of your liberal arts schools, smaller liberal arts schools, a lot in Ohio, a lot in the Northeast, a little bit less sporadic, kind of like in the South, East, and West. There's fewer of them. Division II schools are typically going to be more like technical and or directional schools, right? So like a Northeast, this is not a school, but like Northeast North Dakota would be like probably a Division II school, right? So it would be largely kind of like smaller state schools or technical schools. You know, so I think a couple things on that too, like there's huge variance in Division I about like maybe the top 25 programs and then bottom 25 programs are entirely different in what's required of them and the level of their play and how they travel and what tournaments they go to. And you know, the biggest difference between Division I and Division III, and that's where most kids kind of focus in my experience, would be that Division III plays a little bit lighter schedule, so they play a few less tournaments, and there can be no off-season required activity. So it's actually something they were talking about in the back. Grant has the winter off, and the rest of them don't, right? So they have, you know, stuff they can do in the winter. To a smaller extent, they have hour limits that they can provide, you know, instruction and workouts and so forth.
And then junior golf scoreboard?
Yeah, so JGS, a couple of things on junior golf scoreboard. For the kids in here, those of you that are obsessed with it, I encourage you to not be obsessed with it. Parents that are obsessed with it, you really, really need to not be obsessed with it. Look, the main thing with junior golf scoreboard, the reason why coaches use it, the reason why people are interested in it is that it ranks the players and it puts all the results in one place. The limitation to junior golf scoreboard is that it takes into account 52 weeks of a year, right? So if you played a tournament last October 15th and 16th, it's no longer on there. So my point in saying that is that your ranking could change dramatically, very, very quickly. A large portion, the largest portion of what goes into your ranking is your scoring differential. So think about that like your tournament handicap. Okay, so those of you that have handicaps with GIN or at your club or whatever, those are pretty useless in college recruiting. Coaches would be much more interested in what, you know, maybe your scoring differential is on junior golf scoreboard. That's going to be what you shoot in a tournament against the rating of the golf course. There's a slight like weather thing they've added into there so that, you know, folks from Ohio that play an event in November when it's 47 and raining and 76 is a pretty good score that day, they get some credit for that. Okay.
And long and short, you basically, to get a junior golf scoreboard ranking, you need to play 4 events that are 36 holes in a year. So like if you play US Kids, like doesn't count.
It does count.
Oh, it does count now? Just kidding.
Yeah, that's why I was
That's why he's the expert.
That's why I was answering the question.
Cool.
So to get ranked, like Kyle said, you have to play 4 tournaments. You don't have to do anything to get ranked other than my biggest piece of advice on that, sign up with the same name and same hometown for every tournament. Okay? If my mom signed me up as Rich Brazo from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and my dad signed me up as Richard Brazo from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, oftentimes that puts 2 different files in an account. If you live in a town that you live in Dublin or you can put Columbus, that creates some problems, right? So make sure you're doing that for all your events, like you have one name. That seems a little bit simplistic, but it's actually pretty common. And the tours send the results in for you, right? So you don't have to do anything, you'll get ranked. The one thing I would just tell kids and parents, if you are gonna look at it, all that really matters is where you're ranked in your class. Okay, that's only kids you're competing against. And what I would say as it relates to like ultimately recruiting, I'll speak for the coaches. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a way for them to start their recruiting of you, right? Like to see what you shot. It's one place they can go and see all your results, and it's not just the one good tournament you played they email them about. They can go in there and see everything. So the point is, don't lie when you're talking to them. They're going to find it. It's pretty easy to find. And then they're going to come watch you play. They're going to evaluate your game. They're going to see your talent level. And again, your ranking can change really quickly. So what tournaments you play in are very important. Obviously, how you play is the most important. And that the one thing, just as another side piece, like unless you're injured, never, ever, ever, ever withdraw. Okay, because that pops up on there, and that is like a red flag for these, you know, these coaches and everyone else that You know, if you have 3 WDs on your junior golf scoreboard, that's no bueno. Okay, and that's going to be a problem.
And so everybody that came in, and then I'm going to ask these questions to Coach. I do have one little small question after this. When you guys came in, we gave you a Post-it with a couple numbers on it. So the first number that you are going to see is your national class ranking. Now, take it, it's a little bit different. Like if you're like 12 years old and it shows that you're like 14th in the nation, that's like the first number. There might only be like 35 kids in the entire thing. But if you're like a sophomore, or junior, or senior, that's the first number. The second number, the smaller number, is what your state class ranking is. So, Rich, really quickly, and I know we'll take it for a grain of salt, but like what are some benchmarks usually of?
Very basic, like very, very basic arithmetic. Call it 300 Division I men's schools. They're going to recruit, you know, call it 2.5 players a class. That's probably 700 players in your graduation class. They're going to play D1 golf. Okay, my kind of, you know, rule of thumb is if you're ranked in the top 300 or 400 of your class, you're probably going to play Division I golf. Okay, it may not be at the school of your dreams, but that could be a Division I program. If you want to play at what I would call a Power 5 school or top 100 ranked program or 50 ranked program, you want to be in the top 100 of your class. One thing we'll touch on later is like the influx of international players to college golf. So of the 700, you can probably presume, you know, 200 to 300 of them are going to come from overseas, right? So on the girls' side, it's the same thing. You know, call it 500 players might play Division I golf in a given class. You probably want to be the top 300 of your class to be a no doubt D1 player. If you want to play college golf at large, a lot of it just depends on where you want to go to school. But I would say for sure in the top, you know, 800 of your class. If you're way past that, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, you know, for you, unless you're, you know, looking in a lot of different places.
Yeah. So really quick, in regards to some of the high school golf, Jay, we just had the state tournament at Scarlett, right? Were you guys in town this week?
We were.
Were you able to go out there at all? So how is the difference? Like, I remember being like a high school golfer and I wanted to go like west. And I'm like, well, they shoot 75 and I shoot 75. So like, that means I can play for Pepperdine, which wasn't the case. So how does the courses on college golf like differ? Like how would Scarlett compare this weekend compared to when you're playing it in like, you know, a Big Ten championship or what have you?
Raise your hand who played Scarlett this past weekend. We got a couple, just Chase. Anybody else?
And I think it was playing 6,600 or so.
Yeah, some of you were watching. So I would say the value that we have in seeing the state championship on Scarlett, and I think Coach Arlinghouse would attest, but we rarely get to see junior golfers play in the conditions that we see in October, March, February, when we play in cold, wind, elements, and whatnot. And so the conditions that we saw at Scarlett this weekend are probably about average to what we see throughout the college season. It can be far more challenging than that. You see the scores that our players shoot, and you're like, oh yeah, I shot 74 last week. Like, I think I can beat those guys from Ohio State, and you might be able to, but odds are when our team is shooting like 300, we're playing in a ton of wind with greens that are firmer and faster than what most junior golfers see. And so to be able to see Scarlett the way it was this weekend, at the state tournament, like I think most Division I players are going to shoot still far better in some of those conditions.
Because I think they played it too at 6,600 and you guys are playing it at 72 to 7,300 yards. So big difference. So kind of going into that same thing when you're going out, and I kind of like to go down the line and ask, but and Haas, we can start with you. But when you're out there looking at a player and you're watching a player, like what are you looking for? Like, what are the things that you're like really paying attention to?
I mean, the easy answer is average 68 and have 4.0. Be an Eagle Scout. There's a lot of feel in my recruiting, right? Like, it'd be pretty easy to just go down the list and say, all right, that person's good, that person's good, that person's good. I watch body language. I watch how they talk to mom and dad. I watch practice rounds a lot to see how they're preparing. I stuff, I really try to look into their heart.
Yeah.
See how much they love it.
And I think one thing that's what's interesting just for you guys as players is that all of the coaches kind of have like different things that they tackle, right? So like I have a pretty good relationship with Coach Haas, so like I know for him like competitiveness and like community and that stuff's really big. And then you have another coach who's in the same division and it might be like more athleticism and like what's the ceiling and like does this person want to play professional golf and like so everybody's got a little bit different and that's what you guys are kind of figuring out in your interview process. So what about at Dayton?
So he basically stole my answer. I'm looking for attitude mainly. I mean, if I'm seeing you slamming clubs, throwing clubs, getting mad and frustrated, that's a big turnoff for me personally, and I think probably all of these coaches can agree to that. A bad attitude, you can't play golf with a bad attitude. It doesn't usually end well. And then also, if you have a bad attitude, you're probably not a great teammate. And golf is a really interesting sport where it's an individual sport, but we make it a team sport. So if you're not all in on your team, then like for me, I am not interested then either. And then the same aspect of how are you treating your parents? How are you as a person? How are you treating the golf course? Your playing competitors? Are you super encouraging to them? Just everything that goes along with that. I don't look at golf swings because I mean you wouldn't be playing golf if you can't figure out how to hit a golf ball. But I like the attitude and the course management and everything that makes you a person.
Can I add on to that real quick?
Yes, sir.
Not only am I watching how you're treating your parents, I'm also watching how your parents are treating you.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
100%.
Can't echo that enough. I like to tell our athletes there's a reason why Denison is on the front of our chest and our name isn't on the back. There's going to be a life after golf. Golf may be involved, but at some point there's going to be a life after competitive golf. And so, when you're out there, not that we never want to see recruits or our athletes struggle, but how do you react when things aren't going your way? It's really easy to lead and really easy to be super pumped up when you're out there, on a hot streak or something, but when a bounce doesn't go your way or when, you do have that 3-putt, how do you carry yourself? It's like, so what happened now, what are you gonna do about it? And again, like Allie said, being that team aspect, having 2 programs with myself, I like to say it's 2 teams, 1 program. So you're out there, you're not just playing, unless I know in an individual standpoint, but you've got teammates around you, right? So you can look across the course and I don't want our athletes to know, if someone's head's down, I can tell you pretty quickly how they're playing. But also we focused a lot this fall on just how gritty you are. When things get tough, go out and compete. See those tougher situations as a challenge and not like, oh man, now I've got to go figure out how to hit out of this bunker. It's scarlet, I can't see the pin. Like, shoot, this is a great opportunity to hit one and nip it and get it up and down in front of some of my friends and family. So seeing those things, trying to look at our recruits and see how they see those challenges as opportunities or kind of obstacles.
Grant?
Yeah, to the golf swing thing, I don't really care what the golf swing looks like. I've had some really great players with really ugly golf swings. It does not matter what it looks like. The biggest things is how do you handle adversity during your round? You throw your hands up, blame the golf course, or you just deal with like what's in front of you. Like you made bogey, own it, move on. How do you handle recovery shots? I think is great. I like to see guys play smart, punching out instead of taking, dumb hero shots, things like that. Like, can you preserve your round that way? And I think also just, I walk with a lot of parents during rounds. Just how parents talk about people in their lives, how they talk about their high school coaches or this person or this person. If I hear a lot of negative things, I'm kind of turned off by that because I'm going to have potentially this kid on my team for 4 years. How are the parents going to talk about me when I'm not around? So a lot of the negativity, while the kid may not be negative, it just kind of rubs off in the same way. So I think those are the biggest things.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that one. So the one thing too for you guys to know is that, like, when Jay is recruiting a player, there's something to say about what the scores are, and you got some kid who's averaging 73, and another kid who's averaging 73.5, and one kid plays good in a tournament, one doesn't. But in essence, what he's trying to figure out, and I don't want to speak for you, but it's like, I'm going to put this kid in a van ride for 8 hours. Like, how's that going to go? Right? Like, is the team going to get along with him? Like, if I leave him home and he doesn't qualify, like, is he actually going to do what's needed, or is he just going to go out on the weekends and not get better. So it's more of like this whole culture thing, because the amount of time that you spend with a college coach is insane. I forget the number. I remember Ben Pelicani told me, but
one other thing too on kind of why they're talking about this is college golf's really hard, right? Jay talked about playing in bad weather pretty much all year. Long golf courses, every one of their tournaments they're playing 36 holes in the first day, or nearly every tournament they play 36 holes the first day. How many guys in here have played 36 in one day in a tournament? Yeah, it's a long day, right? And it's not you go into a buffet lunch and chill out, take a shower, change your shirt, right? It's a scorecard and a box lunch, and you keep playing, right? So if you make 2 doubles in the middle of your day, you got to be able to figure that out pretty quick. So I think that just goes to the point of what they're talking about, that a lot of this stuff is not just the score or your ranking or whatever. It's like the mentality, because it's really hard to play well over the course of a year.
yeah. So on Grant's point, how much are you, when you're out there, or just in general, how much are you recruiting the parents as much as you are the players in your recruiting cycle, recruiting journey?
Well, I'll also speak of what these guys did, because Kyle, as a golf instructor, I do care about what the golf swing looks like.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's encouraging.
Thanks. Somebody cares about my hard work.
Look at the golf swing. And these guys do too. They're just competing. So recruiting the parents, I recruit families. I mean, we are going to coach the young man that you drop off with us as a human being, not just a golfer and a golf score, and that human that comes into our program, they have a family back home. They've got brothers, sisters, friends, loved ones. And so to me, it's about the circle of care and the support system that the young man that we recruit, who is poured into them, what are their values. That's a big part of what we look at into the whole culture piece that has been talked about already. And so it's definitely a big evaluation for us, not just the golf side of things, but everything that the human brings to the table.
Haas?
Same question.
Yeah.
It's big. It's not the end all be all, but it definitely helps. Like, and for me, I need to make sure mom and dad have my back, because that kid's gonna screw up at some point, right? And then I'm gonna have to be the bad guy, right? And I really don't want mom and dad. You grounded Johnny for wearing the wrong shirt to work out. It's like, well, that's clearly stated, right? Like, there's rules, right? So just making sure they understand that once they're here, I've got their best interest in mind, but also the best interest of the team in mind. But they have to have the support, because you're going to hear the word difficult and hard a lot, I think. And it's not just the golf courses, it's workload. Is a lot. So that support when they go home is huge.
What about for you at Kenyon?
Well, it's very important. When a parent comes out to watch, for a tournament 3-4 days, I'm going to talk to them. I want to be positive. I want to see how they're interacting with their kids and hear positive things, not complaints or tell me how I should do things like that. So I think it's definitely important. The whole family is not just the kid; it's the entire family and the support system around them.
And I think that it's not saying it's not saying that us parents, because I got 3 kids of my own, it's not saying that we don't care, but like the coaches are watching you parents not as much, but like they're watching them quite a bit, watching you parents just like they're watching the players. So if we see the parent like stomping their feet and acting like a 5-year-old and like wiping their face and like mumbling under their breath, like they see that, right? And they go, this is just a microcosm of what home life is like after this round, right? So there's this whole thing of like what that needs to be, and that's what they're saying. They're recruiting like the whole entire player of what it is. So
Got something to add there. Like, golf's hard, right? And it can be a lonely sport out there. And I remember when I was in school, or even the high school, I went to Bishop Watterson for my high school, and at the state championship, like, even when we have a lot of fans, where your mom and dad are probably at all times, and whether it's right or wrong, after you hit a shot, you probably look to mom or dad at some point. And so just know that you're probably hard enough on yourself, and that's why for our athletes, very rarely do I get upset at bad golf. Of course, we can do better, but it's how are you conducting yourself with that, and if mom or dad are getting really upset that the kid thinks that's okay or could be okay. And so, like I say to our parents, if you like every single decision I'm making, I'm being your friend and not your coach, and you have enough friends, you don't need any more friends, I'm your coach. And so if you get nothing out of your experience, I'm gonna hold you accountable. And when you come in, you're 18 to 22 years old, I ask that when you get mad at something I do or say, probably, not if, come have a conversation with me about it before running right to mom or dad, because that would be the extreme equivalent if I said, I didn't like my office, and so I tell my mom or dad to go to my AD about it. It sounds wild and crazy, but that's the extreme of it, right? Like, we're there to push you and know that we have your best interests in mind, but a lot of times being pushed isn't getting said yes to every single day. So just remembering that, and parents, I had in my recruiting process, a coach that I was talking to, she said she was at the state tournament, this was years ago. She was literally walking to her car to leave, go home, and there was a parent screaming at their kid in the parking lot. Was being recruited at the time and very quickly was crossed off the list. Just stuff to keep in mind. Again, we're real, we want the best for, I say I have 20 kids of my own, but just know that golf's hard. Like, chances are your kid is probably hard enough on themselves.
Right. Allie, what about the role of social media in recruiting? Like, whether, I guess two things. One is in connecting with a player, right? So sometimes for on our side of the street, it might be easier to actually send you a direct message through Instagram than an email. But then also on the back end from you, like, how much are you looking and vetting, we'll say, their Instagram to say, hey, this actually kind of shows into their character of what they're like.
That's a great question, because obviously social media is changing the world right now. For me personally, I do not accept any recruits on my personal social media because I try and keep those two lives separate. However, I am on our team account, so if I get a direct message, I'll look at it. But typically, I like to see an email. I'm a little more old-fashioned with that. Of my email and my cell phone number are very easy to find. Just take a little bit of time to find it. Honestly, might even be easier than to find my personal Instagram account. But then I do look at social media. If, let's say I've got somebody that's been liking all of our stuff, I'm gonna look at that person, see what they're posting, see what their life looks like. Are they posting really inappropriate photos? Probably not going to be interested. Are they posting profanity and stuff like that? And probably also not going to be super interested. I know, like, you guys have probably been preached to make sure what you're posting on social media is good. Don't worry, we're looking at it too. So it's not just your employers, we're looking at it as well. So make sure that your social media presence is appropriate and good.
Yeah. Haas, what about you?
I look at that same stuff too. Your burner accounts we can find too. Your friends all like those pictures too, so it's like you can think you're being neat because you have one that's not your name. Usually we're pretty good at finding out if we get far enough down the road. So those are non-negotiables.
Other coaches, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, you gotta own your brand. You are what you post, tweet, all that stuff. You just gotta own your brand, because I think what you've heard from everybody up here in some form or fashion is every athlete that we have on our team, they represent a lot more than themselves. They represent a school, they represent you as a family, they represent a lot when we go on the road. So it's pretty important that we recruit those high quality characters.
And I think one thing, kind of moving into another department of what we're going to talk about, but for you guys to understand is that in regards to the recruiting journey, yes, shooting 68 and having a 4.0 is like really attractive, but it's also really about everything else, right? Like, it's about everything that makes up the character of their heart, their mind, their soul. Like, how do they conduct business? How's the relationship with their parents, with their teachers, with their coaches? All of that stuff is entailed. So, like, when we go into what are you delivering to a coach, those are the things that they're really trying to look after, right? So, for example, if I was a college coach and I was like, hey, great, like, let me see, like, your stats. And they go, sorry, I don't keep any. And then I had another kid that did. I go, okay, this kid probably cares a little bit more. And, like, there's all these little micro things that you can start to weed out, because there's 15,000 high school golfers in America. like 15,000. That's not even talking about international. So like, if you guys want to be like in the top 2%, 3%, 1% of like playing college golf, you guys need to do things that are different than the rest of the world, which is kind of what they're trying to vet out through social media and talk with parents and teachers and all that kind of stuff. So with that, Rich, when these players, I guess first and foremost, what would be like a 10,000-foot view timeline of, hey, like, you know, my son's 9. Like, should he be writing letters, or should I be doing it in 7th grade, freshman year? Like, how much should I be writing? You know, give us kind of a 10,000-foot view.
So the rules are such that on June 15, after your sophomore year, is the first date that Division I coaches can contact you or respond to emails via text, email, or call, or Zoom or FaceTime. And then you can meet with coaches in person August 1 after your sophomore year. There goes my phone. And then, you know, the way it kind of works from there is the very best players in a given class will typically commit sometime in the fall of their, you know, junior year into the winter of their junior year. So, you know, you're seeing like the very best 2024 players commit, you know, kind of the last month into the, you know, kind of into the winter. And then from there, it kind of trickles down to where in the past week, I've had 5 kids commit to schools in the 2023 class, right? So everything kind of, that's particularly in Division III. In Division III, there's no limit on when you can contact or when a coach can contact you. That doesn't mean that when you're 9, you should email Grant or whoever, you know, in Division III. That's not a good idea. But I would say that if you're aspiring to do this, creating a school list, creating some communication to coaches sometime, you know, in freshman and sophomore year, even before they can officially talk to you, just to let them know, hey, I exist. I'm Rich. I'm from New Hampshire. I work with Kyle Morris. These are my tournaments. I'm interested in your school. And maybe that's once every other month, right? You know, a couple times, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a year until kind of that June deadline. And then after that, you need to be very aggressive, right? Probably to the point of annoying. These coaches are all very, very, very busy. Okay, they wear a lot of hats. Recruiting is a piece of what they do. It's not all that they do. Particularly during like these last couple weeks, months, I'm sorry, when they're in season, they're with their team, they're traveling a lot. It's not all what they do, so you have to be patient with them. I see it a lot with all the kids I work with, that it can be difficult. You may have to send 4 or 5 emails to get a response, right? And it's just the way it goes. If you email a coach while they're at a tournament, okay, they're probably not going to see it, right? Their phone's in their pocket, unless they're on GolfStat, okay, and they're with their team and they're trying to win a tournament, right? So being cognizant of that, and the big thing is like, don't wait for the phone to ring, because you're going to wait a while, right? They're not going to know who you are or where you're from or what you're about. And if you're from Ohio and you want to go to a school in Boston, they may have never recruited a kid from Ohio in their career. Doesn't mean they won't. Just means that they may never presume that a kid from here would want to go there, right? Or South Carolina or California or wherever. So you very much have to go find it. The one thing that's changed pretty dramatically this year is the transfer portal. You guys are probably all familiar with it, you know, with football and stuff. It's taken over college golf to some extent. It has pushed the recruiting timeline back a little bit. So I think things will move a little bit later. So a lot will happen for the vast majority of you, probably in the summer and fall before your senior year. That's back to kind of a normal timeline when it was, you know, probably all when we were kids. So it's not going to be, you know, years ago coaches were recruiting 12-year-olds, right? And that was kind of crazy. And that's not really happening anymore. So the point is, be very aggressive, but you also have to be very realistic about the schools you target, right? If you shoot 85, okay, you probably can't look at a top 50 Division I golf program, right? So the one thing the coaches did leave unsaid, you know, when they watch a player play, the reason they're watching the play is they already think they're a fit in their program from a golf point of view, right? So they've seen some scores, they maybe talked to someone, they think they can handle the golf load, right? They're not just going to go to every tournament and watch every kid, right? They're going and targeting kids that, you know, make sense for them. So the scores for sure matter.
Yeah, but if they're there watching for a reason. But they're just,
Right.
but they're not necessarily watching, oh, he made a bogey, so I'm not taking him.
No, that's irrelevant, but there's has to be some lead up to get to that.
Sure, absolutely. So Jay and Lauren, I want to ask you guys this, and I know Jay, you know, it's not necessarily your, at least from previous history, where you necessarily go, but just a little bit, and I don't know if about your recruiting, I would, because the ladies do a little bit more, but just international recruiting, right? Because, you know, Rich had said, like, hey, you've got, basically, if you're in the top 600 or 700 on JGS, you're probably going to play Division I golf, maybe. But then you've got, like, out of that 700, you've got 200 or so that are coming from international. Like, what is it about the international ladies, maybe we'll start, that makes them different? And you go, hey, like, there's things that they're bringing to the table that maybe that an American isn't.
Yeah, you know, I got my kind of first experience with international teammates when I played at Michigan for my undergrad, and it was really, from a culture standpoint, it was pretty awesome, first and foremost, just to be teammates with people who I didn't grow up with and didn't know. You know, and at Denison now, from the coaching standpoint, we don't have international athletes as of yet on our golf programs, but I know for us in Denison with our academic rigor, really trying to look broadly internationally. I know a lot of it is just also from talking to my college coach, is just the gratitude and the work ethic that they've found with international athletes. That's not to say that isn't here at all, but you know, being able to have those traits, right? We talk about looking at athletes and recruits holistically, you know, and seeing the travel. I also think it's really great to have teammates. They love to go visit each other in the summer, right? And having those things, but on the golf course, you know, just getting such a different upbringing, you know, the exposure that they've had from an international play standpoint as well. You know, it just broadens the pool. On the women's side, it definitely is something that's becoming pretty prominent, even from when I was in school, since then. And just for me, at the end of the day, I want the best fit. I don't care where the recruits are from. I don't care, you know, anything along those lines. To me, it genuinely comes down to the fit. And for me personally, the international pool, it just adds possibilities, I guess is the best way to put that, kind of in a broad sense for you.
Jay?
That's well said. With international athletes, I don't have to deal with the parents as much. I'm kidding. That's really a joke. All right, let's break this thing down. Why do we recruit internationals? Well, golf is now an Olympic sport, so they literally play golf just about everywhere on the globe. And the international kids don't have college athletic opportunities like we have in the U.S. And so oftentimes college golf or college athletics is literally their only opportunity to pursue post-secondary athletics. And just to put it at a real basic level, you take the top 10 kids in the country in every class. Generally, they come from the southern United States. Generally, Maxwell was the only player not from the South that ever won the AJJ Player of the Year award, which is that's been around for 40 years. And so the best players generally don't come from the Midwest and the northern part of the U.S., but a lot of times in Europe, a lot of the better players come from a climate similar to ours. So those kids may not be as intimidating because let's face it, we don't have great success beating, you know, weather on a lot of recruits, and we play outdoors, so weather's a big factor. So that's just kind of a general overview of, you know, why we go overseas to recruit international players.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of really good ones, and my recruiting philosophy is pretty simple. I want to recruit the state of Ohio really hard and find the best players here, and then after that, it doesn't really matter to me where they're from and, you know, what they look like. If they can play golf, they can be a Buckeye.
Gotcha. All right, Hans, what about when you're looking at academics, right? Like, I guess in some sense, and Rich, you can kind of piggyback too, but, you know, you've got like golf scholarship, you've got academic scholarship, like there's kind of like this, you know, puzzle, like how much does academics play for you in recruiting? And then to Grant and Allie, you guys can chime in as well.
I mean, it's another piece to the puzzle, and it's a very, very, very large piece, as equal to everything else we've talked about, because you stack your scholarships, right? So if you get academic aid, you can layer that on top of athletic aid, which helps reduce the cost. But more than anything, I know you're not going to be an issue in the classroom if you can And it's not even close. And you try to overestimate to every incoming freshman how busy they're going to be and how hard it's going to be, and you can't do it. You just can't. You can't do it. So knowing that they can handle the academic stuff in high school gives me a better chance of knowing they can do it in college as well. So.
Ellie?
So Dayton's a really strong academic school, so I look at academics a big portion of it, especially the more money you get academically, the less money I have to give you athletically, which helps on my side. But it's also, I mean, if you're a good student, that's one less thing that I'm having to hound you on. I'm already hounding you about golf. I'm already hounding you about workouts. I'm already hounding you about your personal life. Now I don't have to hound you about school. I don't have to go and sit in a room and stare at you while you do your homework. If you're already doing it, I don't have to worry about it. So academics are really strong on my end.
Grant?
Academics #1 to me. Kenyon's a tough school to get into. The average GPA is 3.8, ACT's 29.33, so it's academics are king. And if it's going to be hard for me to get you in with admissions, it's going to be hard for me to recruit you, to be quite honest. It's just so, you got to stay up on your schoolwork, got to take the right classes, take care of the academic stuff, make it easy on coaches.
Because essentially, like the better your academics and the more aid you can get, like they essentially play with house money in a sense. Like if the kid's got a full ride of academic money or whatever, they don't have to burn one of the four, some of the 4 scholarships, or I think girls is 6.5. What were you going to add, Rich? You said you were.
Just 2 quick things. One, going to the same thing, like about it being difficult. All these teams travel a lot. They're away from campus a lot. They're missing a lot of class. They're missing more class than any other team on campus, right? At best, they have 1 home event, right? It's not basketball or football where they play half their games at home and half their games on the road. They're gone all the time for 4 or 5 day stretches, right? So you're missing a lot of class. So they need to know you can handle the work, because if you're worried about a test and you're hitting a 4-footer, there's less chance that 4-footer's going in. The second, just very quick story. I had a boy talking to a coach just about 3 weeks ago, and the coach called me and said, what's his GPA? I said he has a 3.5. He said, look, I've stopped recruiting anyone with less than 3.7. This is a school that isn't really that good. I mean, it's okay. He could get into school, no problem, like fly into school admissions wise. But he said, look, I've decided that I'm only going to recruit players over this barrier because when I recruit under that, it doesn't work out, right? And I think that's actually more common than you think, and coaches may or may not have put that together, but over time they probably find a profile of kid that works for them. And I think the kids in the room, it really, really matters.
Can you, since you're going on some of that, can you articulate a little bit just to educate everybody? Because this was news to me. I remember when I was 18, of just college scholarships, right? I was like, oh yeah, full ride, right? But can you lay that out for men and women, and then the Division 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. So, Division 3, there's no athletic scholarship. You can get academic aid, right, or aid from the school, right, that you would get otherwise. In Division 1, like I said, men get 4.5, women get 6. Again, let's do some very basic math. If there's 10 players on a men's golf team, okay, they can't give out 10 full rides, right? At best, there might be 1 or 2 players that are on that. My general rule of thumb is there's probably less than 50 kids in the country that are on a full scholarship golf-wise, where they just say, here's your full ride, like you're an Ohio State linebacker, right? That's a very, very small number, okay? There are a lot more kids that get to, like Haas said, they get 50% for golf and they get 50% academically, and they get to that larger 80, 90, 100% number. As a freshman, my general rule of thumb is if you get a 25% scholarship, home run. Anything over 50, grand slam, right? And anything over that is very rare, right? So from an expectation point of view, you have to have that in your head. Now, obviously, that's a sliding scale. If you're a fringe player at a given school, that might be the 8th or 9th player on the roster, or the 10th player on the roster, you probably can't expect 25%, right? And if you're going to be the bona fide #1 player at a given school because you're awesome and they need a player like you, you're probably going to get a little bit more. I remember, Jay, a couple years ago, you had a comment at this thing. We're over at Golf Club in Dublin, if you don't need a scholarship, put it in an email or something like that. So I think it's...
That catches coach's eye.
So I think...
Don't need money.
Obviously, it's you know, a fine line of, you know, how you phrase that, I guess. But if it's not as important, or if there's money set aside or whatever, and you're truly just trying to find your best fit, it can certainly be a game changer for a coach to kind of tip you over the edge. So again, from an expectation point of view, don't expect that it's going to be the full ride. And if it is an important factor in your decision, college is really expensive, you probably need to adjust your school list, right? And find a school where you get a little more academic money, and find a school where you'd be a bona fide number 1 or 2 player, and you'll probably get to a higher number.
And Rich and I kind of had two tales. Like Rich went to Seton Hall as, I guess you could say, preferred walk-on, and then ended he was captain with me his junior to senior year, like on a full ride. So like, yep. Right, like he emptied.
Yeah, and they can increase the scholarship year over year, right? If you are, you know, if they feel that you're worth it, right? And they have a budget to manage of how they're going to allocate their scholarships. I equate it to their running small businesses, right? They're trying to find the most talent they can find for the best price. So I think it's really important to note, and they can't reduce your scholarship for athletic reasons, like if you play bad, right? But they can reduce it if you're a knucklehead. So, you know, don't be a knucklehead, I think would be the general rule.
Allie and Lauren, how much do high school golf play a role for you in recruiting?
Very little on my side. I get this a lot. Susie is averaging 75, and one of your players is averaging 75. Susie's better than your girl, so XYZ. We're comparing apples to oranges at that point. College golf, as we've said across the board, is difficult. We are playing in the rain. We are playing in the snow from time to time, which is not fun. The wind. We're playing longer courses. We're playing harder courses. So keep that in mind. High school golf is, I hate to say it, it's not hard. We're playing, especially on the women's side, you're playing it really short. You're playing courses that you can just skip one up onto the green from 50 yards away. So keep that in mind. So I personally, I don't really look at it. I'll go to the state tournament, I'll look at that just because that is a bigger bear. Playing a little bit longer, but I look more at the summer events, the ones that are playing closer to 6,000 yards versus the ones that are playing closer to 5,000.
Just one quick note, everyone in here besides me lives in Ohio, okay? Like Ohio has actually, as it relates to high school golf in general, pretty competitive high school golf. You guys play 18 holes, you actually play some 36-hole events. Across the country, they play wildly different formats. I played 9-hole match play. How can a coach judge that, right? Or 9-hole stroke play, right? And so it's
all
impossible. It'd be like judging a kid playing 2-on-2 basketball, half court to 5-on-5 full court, right? So you have to, it really comes down to these outside events because it's not an equitable playing field across the country.
Lauren, how about you?
I think to just add to what Allie had said, I mean, high school golf, a lot of times when I'm talking, especially to women's recruits, I'll ask about, your high school, how's the team set up? I know prior to high school, I played on a boys team. The gamut, you get the gamut of things. I tell our players at the end of the day, you've got to shoot a score, no matter how short, long, great, or not great conditions are. I think it's a part of the puzzle, but it's not the end of the end all be all, if you will. Again, I think it shows it's a good opportunity to show off your short game. If you're playing short courses and you say how short they are, then go light it up. I mean, even for us, I make my men go play forward tee challenges, and they have to shoot a certain score to move back. I don't care how short or long it is, you still got to post a score. So, I think it's something like Allie said. I look at it. I appreciate when scores are there, but also just give context to when you're shooting scores. I think that's really important. When we look at how long was the course playing? I mean, until you get to the state tournament for the girls, it is pretty short, and then they jump you way back. There's not really a middle ground. Give a little context. That helps paint a picture. We don't need to know, winds were gusting at 45, but just be realistic with it too. It's an opportunity to tell your story.
And I think for you guys to know too, like it's okay to send an email to a coach and just say, yeah, like played in the high school tournament this week. Didn't play very good. I shot 84, 81. Like it was hard. I was stressed out. I realized that I need to work on some things. Like, that's okay. It just shows that you're a human being, but it shows more so that you have the maturity to know, like, that to learn from it rather than go hide in a rock and then pretend and blame it on everything else other than the golf course. Or everything, blame it on the golf course. So, Grant, I want to ask one question to kind of last few questions here before we wrap up. Give us why, if someone was saying, hey, why D3 golf over maybe D1 golf? Like, what would be some of the differences that you would say, hey, like, this might be a better fit for you?
I can say this now because I have a player who's taking his COVID year to D1. It's balance, I think, is
Yes.
the thing. I was talking to these coaches earlier. I know they still have fall practice and winter practice. In D3, we're hands off in the winter. We're very balanced, so you have time to take the classes you need to take, or the classes you want to take in your majors, and balance the competitive golf schedule. I can't say that's the same for every institution or every situation. So I think the balance piece is nice, that you get to be a college student and have that experience.
Yeah, I think it's different for every Division I coach, right? Like, so Jay might have different. Like, we were at a school, and one of our kids from North Bend, he came and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be a chemistry major," and we go, "No, you're not." Because you have labs at 1 and that's practice and you're gone 3 days a week and like, yeah, right? And that's what we took. We were a Division I program. Now, that doesn't mean that's necessarily what Jay would do. Jay might have different ideologies, right? But every program's different. But absolutely, do you have anything to add in regards of and we're going to get into what the kind of finalized last few questions, but what the day-to-day looks like, but which might be a good thing of like, hey, what's your, I guess in some sense, your 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. for the student athlete in your guys' program. So we'll kind of come back and we'll cycle back. So like, what's a normal in-season day look like?
Yeah, definitely. When we're in season, we go typically 6 days a week with that required off day. Now that could vary based on amount of time we have between tournaments. I think a lot of it is taking a temperature of the team as well. How I typically run things is a balance of structure and individualization, because there's going to be things that you need to work on that your teammate doesn't, but also I'm a big team person. When we do team practices, it's very competitive, very difficult. We have the benefit of owning our own golf course, so we try and get out there and make it real as much as possible. But typically you'll have classes. We do have that lab setup that you were talking about, goes till 4:20. It's not a golf coach's maybe favorite thing in the world, but also you're a student first and an athlete second. So we work around it, and my number one thing is communication. Communicate with me early and often. We're not going to have issues. I'll help work around it. But practice usually falls anywhere within that 3 to 6, 4 to 6:30 standpoint, just based on what we're looking to accomplish that day, whether it's playing, structure, qualifying, whatever it is. In season we work out twice a week. Out of season they lift 3 times a week. We have mandatory study tables for our first years to get that balance. So you're really going probably from about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on any given day. And I like to say we're a D3 program, and I've got a D1 mindset. You're going to have the balance. I'm going to push you, but also at the end of the day, in the off season you can go, maybe have a little bit more flexibility to have that day-to-day college experience.
Allie?
So my days are pretty structured, very similar. We work out 2 days a week, 6:45 to 7:45, 2 days a week, and then off season we add a third day in. We're practicing every day except for one day. Weekends we qualify as much as we possibly can, weather permitting. This fall was terrible with the rain, and I think we've got 2 qualifiers in out of too many. But then off season it's a lot calmer. So in season I'm allowed 20 hours a week. Off season I get cut down to 8. So it is a lot calmer then. But team meetings, team bonding a lot. I'm big on team and making sure they're spending time together. So they grab dinner a lot together. I take them out to dinner. So just all of that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the qualifying. We could get into that qualifying, but the qualifying is tough. I mean, some of you guys maybe haven't been missed, your sectional team or district team, but there is nothing worse than having a qualifier like every week and you're not making it. And like Jay's like, yep, see you later. Like, we're going to Oregon this week, and then next week we're going to Arizona, and you're like, sick, I'll just stay here in Columbus, right? Like, that's a miserable feeling. So like it just gives you a little bit more ammo to say like I need to get really good because that's a long 4 years of college golf.
If I could add one thing, I think the most humbling thing I've heard is that you're number one, number two on your high school team. You come onto a college team, and everybody's the number one, number two on their high school team. It really humbles you right away. Of like, wow, I have to really work at this. If you haven't had to work in high school before because you're the best player, college you really got to work.
Yeah, yeah. Arlenas?
Day-to-day questions. So,
Yeah.
So we work out 3 days a week, 7 to 8. Same as Allie, we have 20 hours a week during season, then it's 8 hours, 4 of which is strength and conditioning during off season. So in season, 7 to 8. Typically class is 8 to 1. Practice or play 2 to 6, 2 to 3, depending upon what the day is. And 1 off day. Out of season, we work out 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 to 8. We added a 4th day of yoga, and then we have 4 hours of practice that either is a 2-day, 2-hour, or 4-day, 1-hour type practice stuff.
Jay? Similar?
They touched on kind of the same structure of what we do. I will speak to the non-structured stuff because, like everybody up here said, we have hour limitations from an NCAA compliance standpoint. But if you want to be competitive and on our team, you've got to put in a lot more work than what I require you to do, which is why we recruit guys that want to compete. And every player, as we've just talked about, every player that comes to play for us, they come and they want to play, they want to travel. They don't want to sit at home when we go on these trips because our trips are pretty awesome and they want to be on them. And so they've got to put in time beyond what we schedule because we typically fill our hourly week or our hours up with workouts, qualifying, and just light short game practice, and then I'm out of time. So if you want to get in more time, if you want to be an elite player, you've got to put in a lot more time than what we require you. And so our guys generally, if they're not in the classroom, they're at the golf course. Even when the sun goes down, we have lights in our facility, and we expect them to work and put in the time because if they're not, they're gonna get they're in jeopardy of having guys beat them and gaining ground on them.
So like I still remember like my Seton Hall schedule. So it was we worked out 6 to 7. We got back to the golf house at 7:15. I had to be to class by 8. I was at class from 8 to 12:30. I had to be in the calf from 12:30 to 12:45. I had to go back to the golf room, hit balls for 3 minutes because at the course you were allowed to not hit golf balls while we played. They just wanted you to show up and get off the tee. So I hit balls from 12:30 to 12:45. We got on the van at 12:45. Got to the first tee by 1:15. Off the first tee box by 1:20 because you're in Jersey and no one likes anybody in Jersey. So then we played from 1:20 till 6. 6:30, got back to the calf by 7, ate dinner from 7 to 7:30, went back to the golf room and practiced from 7:30 to 8:15, then back to my dorm, study till 11, and then back up in the morning at 5:30. That was the day, which is basically my life right now.
Minus the class.
The qualifying stuff is interesting with golf because I'm assuming there are multiple sport athletes in here. You play basketball, soccer, whatever. It's the equivalent to playing basketball and not going on the road games, and then just having to get your face beat in practice every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in other sports, right? It's like the whole football team goes, the whole soccer team goes, the whole basketball team goes. Not.
And to expand on the analogy, it's like playing a football game on Tuesday and Wednesday to decide the starting 11 to then play another football game on Saturday.
Correct.
Right? So, you may actually play less than 2 or 3 non-competitive rounds of golf in a semester. Right? By the time you qualify and go to tournaments and do all these things, like everything you're doing is to compete. Whether you're in the weight room or you're at practice or you're in qualifying or you're at a tournament, you're competing. And if you're a kid in this room that loves golf and maybe doesn't love to compete, maybe it doesn't make you feel good or you don't like how it goes, this might not be for you. And that's okay, right? Like if you might need to find a slightly different path to enjoy the game, right? Maybe that's club golf, maybe that's something different. Like for me, golf was an outlet to compete, right? I love baseball, but I was better at golf. There's not that many 5'7" first basemen, so I had to play golf, okay? And you have to have that outlook. And if you don't, it's going to be very, very difficult. You're not going to have fun. You're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to play well.
And when you guys are looking at a coach, right, in a program, that's some of the things you're going to have. You're asking, like, hey, how do you qualify? What's the day-to-day look like? So Jay's kind of a swing guy, so he might allocate time. Not saying you guys don't, but like he might allocate more time for like, hey, like yeah, we're going to do like some more swing stuff and technique stuff. And then you have other coaches that are just all they want to do is compete. We have one girl who plays at a Division I program, a high-level Division I program, and she says the qualifying they had all fall was nothing but short game contests. They qualified just short game. That's it. Like nothing else, right? And she goes, I hit balls on a range working on my swing 2 times in the fall. So like that's where kind of they're saying like you've got to find other ways to work on your game outside of whatever the coach is, because you need to be respectful of, that's why you're going there, of doing what the coach is, but you also have like your own stuff that you got to manage your stuff too, and that's why you have to do that stuff like we'll say off the clock in a way. So they're given 20 hours, but that's not really, it's way more than that in a sense. Anything you wanted to add?
No, I think, Division III, we don't have hour limits. We just have to give you a day off, but, my team, maybe we're together practicing, mandatory practice from 10 to 12 hours a week, but I expect much more outside of that if you want to be in the lineup.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what it takes.
Yeah. And nothing against, I guess one thing for this room, especially when we looked at the JGS numbers, is like, and nothing against like the Division I programs in here, but like there's a lot of beauty in like D2s and D3 schools, right? Like there's a little bit more like there a lot of times, not saying that you guys aren't high academic schools, but like they're high academic schools. You might have an opportunity to like have a little bit more flexibility, whereas playing in a Division I program, like it's a full-time job. Like it's a lot of work. And if you don't love it, right, like Coach Arlinghaus and I were talking earlier, we're talking in the back of like you have players that like golf and you have players who love golf, right? So like when we're talking about players for our academy, like one of the first questions I'm always asking them, like, hey, how passionate are you for golf? Like, hey, it's July and it's Wednesday. Like, how much are you on a golf course? Which is because with me, like I walked 3 18-hole rounds every day when I was like 14 because I was, huh? Yeah. So you're trying to get it to where the player's super passionate, because then they're going to want to do all these extra things in a sense.
By the way, just like one quick thing, a lot of this is like not negative, but like kind of scary and sort of intentionally scary. Like the other side of it is it's really fun, right? Like this is something you should want to do, you know, and it's when you're there and you're with your best friends and you're playing golf and you're qualifying and you're working out and you're busting chops, like it's really, really fun. But it's a lot of work, right? So you have to understand both sides. And if, it's really truly about finding the right situation for you where you can play, right? And where you can fit in and where you get on the bus, right? And, there's places you can play, there's places you will play. It's 2 different things, right? And I think that's an important thing, but it is worthwhile to do this, but you gotta know what you're getting yourself into.
So last question, and we'll just go down the line. We'll start with you. If you were going to give call it a freshman, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Freshman on my team? Or?
No, freshman. Right now, he or she is a freshman in college. Or freshman in high school, sorry.
High school, yeah. Communicate. Both sides. I got to know that you're interested in me, and you have to know I'm interested in you. So if I don't hear from you for 4 months, I'm going to assume you're not interested.
Yeah. The big thing for Rich and I when we have this whole journey is we say you have to recruit to be recruited.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely echo that communication. Someone down the line said it best, especially when we're traveling. Like right now, I'm men's and women's coach with not a full-time assistant, so like you're gonna have to email. You might have to email a couple times. Don't take it personally. I will let you know if we don't have spots or aren't interested. Communicate. It also shows. Do some research. Right? It doesn't take long to look at our website and know that I am a female coaching men. I'm not Mr. Grogan. You'd be surprised. We laugh because it's true. Like just take 5 minutes, do some research.
Coach.
Yeah, coach. Personalize your email. We know when we get form emails. Like just put a little bit of touch in that communication.
Parents, don't write the email.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That would be a quick red flag.
Yeah.
Am I giving a piece of advice?
Sure, if you want.
No, she can go.
This one's kind of for parents. When your student athlete is on the phone coach, let them be the one talking. I actually was just recently on a phone call that the poor young lady couldn't talk to me because she was terrified. And her dad ended up doing all the talking, and then I was just like, all right, like, I'm not super interested now. So just make sure you let them be the one communicating. I'm not recruiting the parents, I'm recruiting the player. I don't, no offense parents, I don't really care to talk to you as much as I do the actual player. So let them be the one that's on the phone. Don't be sitting in the background, telling them what to say. Let the coach and the player get to know each other.
Question was for freshmen in high school.
Yeah, like what advice would you give?
Play every sport you can for as long as you can. Let life decide what you're going to play. Like 5'7" first baseman, like I probably wasn't playing quarterback in the NFL. Moeller High School told me that, so I was like, oh, I'm going to play golf then, right? Like, just play a bunch of different sports. Like you're doing a whole lot for your brain, you're doing a whole lot for your muscles when you vary your sports. Like don't be dead set on golf or baseball or something like that. Like play one.
Jay?
Be well-rounded, read, write, journal, be a good student, do your homework, play a lot of golf, work on every element of your game. Don't just work on the things you're good at. Our players love to do that. Okay, you really got to work on the things that you're not good at to improve and get better. That's really low-hanging fruit that you can just pick up very, very quickly. And then another parent advice. So we've kind of touched on this, but I heard a coach once say that when I meet with parents, I tell them that your son's going to fail at some point with me. And how you respond to that is super, super critical. And I think every coach up here would agree that when your son calls or daughter calls home from college, and it doesn't have to be golf related, it can be failed a midterm or slept in and missed something. Something's going to happen. They're going to fail. It's inevitable. And if you enable your son or daughter and take their side and try to defend for them, you really cripple us in trying to help that athlete prepare for challenge that life's going to face them. So let them fail. It's okay. And just encourage them and say, hey, if coach was upset at you, well, there has to be a reason why. And, if it's a thing with disrespect, that's a whole different story. But if coach is being fair and coach is being challenging and coach is being, trying to get something, greater than what's there, then, let the coach, you chose to you put a lot of energy and time into, sending your son or daughter to play for the coach. Let them work things out and let them fail, because that is a key ingredient that we all need our athletes to be able to handle failure when it's on the golf course, because it's not if, it's when.
Yep. Yes.
And I think just real quick, bouncing off of Jay there, a lot of the stuff that, at least like what I preach to the programs, isn't because I've done it all right. It's because I've messed it up. And similarly, like I know parents, like you just want better for your kid. And so like we're the same way. Like our athletes, I say this isn't because I've done everything right, because I mess up every single day. But we're trying to get you ready for, again, whatever that next challenge down the road is. And it may seem annoying that we're on you for wearing the wrong shirt to a workout or being late. Like it's because it's bigger than that. So remembering that stuff and understanding it's not because the coach is perfect, because none of us are, but we do it because we care a whole heck of a lot about our athletes. So
Thank you. So because there are some certain, we just don't want to put the coaches in a sticky situation. If you guys could, we're going to dismiss the coaches. We're going to thank the coaches. And then if you guys can stay, we basically got some cool things for you guys that will help you with this journey, that some of it's for free, because we're going to give you Rich and I will give you a little bit of ways to navigate these waters, because you guys are probably a little bit confused on what to do next. But, for a round of applause for the coaches, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your days. I guess can we take 5 minutes just for questions? Is that okay with you guys? Is there any parent questions before we dismiss them?
As an older parent, I didn't grow up with all the gadgets that these kids have to respond to. So I haven't really got active with my son until going from sophomore to his junior year. As a parent, finishing up his junior year, what can I do to help support him going forward into his senior year? Because we were talking about the junior years really where coaches
Yeah.
You just go out and play and then put numbers up, then all of a sudden, like, we have a way to find you. You can send emails, I'm sure yours is twice as busy as mine, but like, emails just keep coming, and there's not enough time. I try to respond to all of them, but there's just not enough time. You can send, you can pay for services. I think there's services out there that get your name out in front of people, but bottom line is just go play as much as you can.
Any other questions? Sorry.
Add to that, learn to ask really good questions to your son or daughter. Like, ask really, really thought-provoking questions. What do you want out of your college experience? How do you want to leave as a 23-year-old? You know, what is important to you? Have you made a list of your priorities where you go to school? How far away from home do you want to live? Ooh, that's a good one. Just ask really good questions for your son or daughter. That's what I would say. Be encouraging on what they want to do.
The one thing I would add too that probably I'll take a little, not to you, but more just for the junior golfers in general, a little bit of a more harsher take, is that as junior golfers, like, there's two things. One is like my 7-year-old, my daughter, like, you want to be like a doctor and a firefighter and a policeman and a professional gymnast and like a singer, like all these things, right? So like everybody wants to play golf at Ohio State. But then there comes a time where you also have to have the reality of like, hey, where am I? Like, that's not real right now. But the other part is there's these other schools that are amazing schools. And at the same time, right, like, and I'm talking to the juniors right now, this is not your parents' responsibility. You guys have to take ownership of your own life. It is not your parents' responsibility to write emails for you. So like if you're a junior or a sophomore and you're not writing emails, that's okay. But just realize that you're probably not going to play golf in college. Then that's okay. If you're okay not writing the emails, then you have to be okay with the result of not playing. And that's just how it works. Like, that's real life, right? Like, if I want to get a job and I don't apply, I don't get a job. It doesn't mean like they wake up and Jay's on my front door like, you want to play at Ohio State? It doesn't happen that way. That's why you have to recruit to be recruited. You have to take the steps because they're really busy and bombarding Haas's email until finally he says, oh yeah, I keep seeing that name. And then he opens it, and it's not to his fault. It's just the convenience of when it is. Like, he's a family guy. So, like, if you're emailing him, you have to catch him on, like, oh, like, I'm sitting at the doctor's office Thursday at 9 a.m. Now I can read this. Perfect timing. It's kind of a luck of a draw in some sense, right? But just realize that there's consequences to your actions if you're not going to take action.
Real quick, so I know the junior golf scoreboard is obviously a big thing to start and stuff, but if a boy or girl's going to send an email, what's the biggest thing that you look for in a talent? Because you don't want to send an extensive resume, I imagine.
You're saying what information should they send?
Correct.
Rich, you want to handle that?
Yeah, I think you need to tell them who you are, where you're from, where you play golf, what your grades are, who your swing coach is, particularly, if you're, not yet a junior and they can't reach back out to you, and if you're a good player for them, if you give them information to people around them, they can contact, high school coaches or swing coaches or whoever. Certainly you want to send, your scores and be truthful and honest, and, they're going to find the scores. I think most coaches probably want to see, as much data as they can, as it relates to what you're doing to improve, whether that's in the weight room, whether that's TrackMan numbers, whether that's a swing video, whether that's, stats on a decade or an up game or whatever. Like, as serious as you can show them that you're trying to be about your game, I'm going to presume that the more serious they're going to take, you as a player, right? It doesn't have to be in one email. Again, this is happening over a long period of time. You're correct. Sending one 8-page email is not going to work that well. Sending a sequence of emails with different things over 4, 5, 6, 7 months, that's kind of the program.
You're trying to showcase the differences in the person.
What
so if
makes
you,
the players stand out a little bit.
yeah, like,
You said it was August of their sophomore year, they're about.
June 15 after sophomore year is when they can respond in Division I, when they can officially respond or reach out to you via call, text, email. And August 1 is when you can have a visit on campus or in person.
After sophomore year.
After sophomore year.
Oren, you had a question?
Yeah, so we're all looking forward ahead to college. My question is more about the athletes that you're coaching today. When they leave college, having played for 4 years golf, how many of them will actually stay within golf? Right? It doesn't have to be playing
You got 7 of us up here, that stayed in golf.
So when you're
I-
choosing for every graduating year, is it typically they go back into what they're majoring in, or they stay within golf?
I think it's,
Obviously for me, more have gone into like a field, but I've got 4 that are coaching at sub level now, which makes me
and I
happy
and I
at the same time.
and I think to that point, I think it's a split bag of what it is, right? Meaning Jay's players are probably going to be going to try to play maybe on tour, where Grant's maybe aren't. But at the same time, going into a job interview, and this is why, in regards to like collegegolf.com, this is why I'm super passionate about it, is because this whole journey that you guys are on is just a microcosm of what happens at 23. So like, if I'm employing someone and I'm hiring someone and they've got all of their ducks in a row and they know how to communicate and like they're recruiting to be recruited and like their emails and all that kind of stuff, I go, yeah, I want to hire you. You're different, right? It's just like you in a job. So whether they're in the field of golf or not, it still opens up a lot of doors. And then obviously, like Rich is my best friend in the world. So basically those golf guys and girls, they kind of become like your frat brothers and sisters in a sense. Like that becomes your family.
I think it
So-
goes to what we said about liking and love it. If you like it, you go on to a career in accounting and you work for Deloitte. But if you love it, you find a way to stick around it.
Yeah.
It's probably pretty school dependent in fairness.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like if you go to Yale, you're probably not gonna work at golf. Right?
Yep. One more question, maybe 2.
I have 2 questions.
Yep.
For the schools that, how much do you take into account like homegrown talent? Like you guys are all Ohio schools, like Ohio State, there might more recruit nationally, but like if you're looking at homegrown talent versus maybe states away, is it equal, or do you think, does it get any benefit at the end, homegrown?
I have 2 Ohioans on my team. I recruit the coasts. Most of my kids on my team are from the East Coast or West Coast. I find very, very, very little kids in Ohio, just because of the kind of school Kenyon is.
Yeah, I think, for us, Denison's just over 80% out-of-state students. For me, I love Ohio. I love talent close to home if it is there. But similarly, we have a couple in total between the 2 teams. That's not to say that is from how we want it. It's just naturally kind of how it falls. But at the end of the day, I want people who want to go compete. I don't care, like I think Jay had said, I don't care where you're from, but there's also great talent in Ohio. So it's doesn't matter for us.
I would just add that I think I find that a lot of junior golfers try to stay in Ohio, where there are hundreds of schools elsewhere that would love to have someone of your caliber. You just have to go out there and get out of your comfort zone and see what else is out there. Because I think a lot of kids just kind of tend to just stay in-state.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you're in Jersey and you go, hey, like, want to go to Kenyon College? And they go, no. You go, do you even know what it is? They're like, no.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, but it's an amazing school. That's why there's so many other schools. Nothing against you, Jay. I love Ohio State. But there's so many other schools other than, like, Dayton, Xavier, and Ohio State. Like, there's a bazillion. And they're all great if they're great for you, because everybody has their own story. So I'll dismiss the coaches. Thank you so much for coming, guys. This was amazing. We'll have you guys. If you guys could just hold tight just for 1 second. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's about the contacting. So how is the sophomore year for every sport, or is it just golf?
I'm sorry?
The contacting a kid after their sophomore year.
I think basketball and football have slightly different rules, but I'm fairly certain about the golf. I think
Seasonal.
basically every Olympic sport has the same rules. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's.
Lacrosse is seasonal.
I think that's correct.
So we're just seeing kids like signing or committing as a freshman in high school for baseball to Ohio State. How is that possible? They had to have some contact with the coach.
So you can commit earlier. I had a boy commit to a school in July this year. He had gone to a camp. He had known this was his #1 school. He had met the coaches. He had some, known some people there. There's ways to do that if you had maybe attended a camp, or the college coach knew his coach or the swing coach, or in that case the baseball
So
coach.
there is communication.
It'd be kind of a gamble, though. I mean, but you certainly, some of these schools are lifelong aspirations, right?
Sure.
To attend one school, right?
And then just if you get a scholarship, if you're lucky enough, you said that it can't be reduced. Is that true? Because I hear of kids saying that they can go to a school for, most of my examples are baseball, but you can go to a school for baseball and they can, hey, you're not good enough, we're gonna cut you, and you're not gonna get your scholarship for the remaining of the 4 years. Zach?
I don't, to my knowledge, you can't reduce it for athletic reasons. There may be other reasons why you could reduce it.
Right.
And they may not be that apt to tell you the other reasons why they reduced it.
I guess for,
scholars.
the question's really for you guys. Do you guys have tryouts every year for your team? Do they have to re-earn that scholarship or?
At Ohio State, we cannot reduce it, like, period.
Right.
But I can't speak for other schools.
Okay.
Not there.
Yeah, we don't reduce it for athletic reasons.
Perfect.
Now, if they're being a knucklehead, but
Sure.
if they're not following team rules, like I have a 3 strikes, you're out. You break 3 team rules, you're done.
Ineligibility would be probably another
Yeah.
one.
Sure,
You know,
I can prearrange a reduction.
Right.
If I have a bunch of money this year, then I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give you a bunch of money this year, but next year you're gonna go to this, I can prearrange that. Sure. But I can't say, hey, you shot 82.
We one more question in the back. Maybe 2.
After you get sent out initial email and make contact, how does that work? Like, does the coach come out and watch a few rounds, and how do you end up kind of committing and signing?
The process of committing and signing.
I
So,
think,
go ahead.
I just gonna say, I think it depends a lot on the timeline of the school as well, you know, and how the coach, if the coach has the ability to maybe travel to come recruit, depending on budgets and stuff. You know, for us, we're in, with just our admissions process, early decision is a really big thing, which just means whether that's the November, January. I mean, we had 12,000 applications last year for a class of 680 at Denison. You know, so the timeline also just depends on the school. But you know, if at all costs, we want to come watch our recruits, obviously, to see some of those things that you can't see on a leaderboard, so to speak. You know, and then we love to get our athletes in for a visit. Obviously, get to spend some time with ourselves and our athletes. I think that's important to get to meet some of the people you might be spending that time with. You know, those countless hours. And then it goes from there. You know, at the end of the day, it's hard because even for being a smaller school, two to three is a class for us. And at the end of the day, we have to make some of those tougher decisions. But typically, it'd be that initial phone call, get you, you know, not texting through a screen. You can learn a lot more about the person. Hopefully, come out and watch, get to campus, and then, you know, we kind of go from there.
I'll try to provide some clarity to that question. So there's 2 things that we all do. We evaluate and then we recruit. When we're just having conversations with you guys, or we're out watching for maybe the first time, we're evaluating you to determine if you're gonna be the right fit for our program. And then when we start recruiting you, you will know. Because we will make that very clear that we want you to be a part of our program. That may come in an offer, you know, early, later, it just kind of depends. Every situation is a little bit different. So there's 2 phases to it, and that should be very clear, you know, kind of when you're going through the process with each coach.
Jay's a really, really good coach. All these coaches are really, really good coaches. That may not be the case everywhere. I would, you know, like across the board.
Your words, not ours.
So I'll speak for the vast majority of it. This very much is like a slow burn where nothing happens. Maybe you have some back and forth with the coach. Maybe you talk, call, text. It feels like nothing's happening. A lot of times they won't even come watch you play. And then maybe you go on a visit. Maybe you get an offer. And then all of a sudden you get 2 more offers in another 2 weeks and you commit. And it felt like nothing happened for 18 months and everything happens in 2 weeks. Okay, I've seen this 5 times in the last month. Nothing, commit. Okay, so that is how good coaches do it. That's how Jay said. How other coaches do it maybe is a little bit more sporadic. What would be a kind way of saying.
Oh gosh, I need to put a team together. Last question.
I was just curious, is there still like a COVID clock? You know, and when would that run out?
Gosh, I hope not.
As far as like,
One more class that will have that option.
Okay.
It'll be back to normal. Theoretically.
So, all right, let's. If you guys could just stay here for a second, and then coaches, thank you so much for coming. Drive safe. We'll see you. Thanks for coming. Drive safe. Thank you. See you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay.
See you guys.
You can just go out the front here. Thanks. Okay, so three things. I'll get you guys out of here in the next 3 or 4 minutes, I promise. I'll try, maybe 5. So the first thing is the college coaching stuff, right? So we talked about, hey, like, you guys know like Ohio State and Dayton and Xavier and Youngstown State and Akron, but you don't know like Quinnipiac, like just some random schools. So one thing that I want to give you guys that Rich wanted to do.
Get the name right.
Yeah, that's fine. So one thing we're going to do is Rich and I, there's this company called collegegolf.com. Inside that, there's this database, right? So normally the database is $100 for you guys to have a subscription to. But because you guys are here, we're going to give you a subscription. I'm going to have my team create a bunch of admins tomorrow to give you access to it for free. So what that is you're going to go in there and you can like search your school and all the stuff we were asking. So you can go like, hey, I want to go to a school that's like this expensive and this size and like this division. I have this scoring average and blah, 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 blah. It's going to take all the schools and then dial it into like a list of like 35. And it's kind of like.
So a couple just brief things to add on that, what we talked about a few minutes ago. The biggest feature of it is that you can look at over 30 years of scoring data for each school, right? So if you average 75 in junior golf and what these coaches just talked about, you probably want to go in that search function and look for schools that have a 3-player that averages 77, okay? And see what schools pop up. College golf is harder, okay? It is not the 75 equals 75, okay? Additionally, you can go look by academic, location, there's 20 parameters, and you can change it. The other thing you can do is, and I would be truthful about this, we have a scoring conversion on there that if, let's say you average 75 and your average length of golf course you play as a boy is 6,600 yards, or a girl is 5,200 yards. You can go in, you can put that in, and you can see where in a field you may finish based on that type of score, right? And it's not perfect, but it's really accurate as it relates to if you average 76 at 6,600 yards and you look at where Ohio State played, you're going to be probably in the bottom 5 of every field. Where if you put it at Kenyon, maybe you're in the middle of the pack, right? So it's a really good way to kind of see where you fit in. It's by far the best feature on there, but we really want you guys to get in there and check it out. I know how valuable it is. It was for me as a kid, and it is for hundreds and hundreds of kids. So
and we took over the company in February, so there's going to be continued stuff doing it. So now you've got this list, right? You got this list of 47 schools or whatever, and you go, great, sick. What do I do now? So that's why we then gave you the flyer that's got the barcode on it. So if you scan the barcode, you're going to then get an opportunity to have a free consultation with Colin. Colin Lazo is one of our college golf guides who helps navigate the water. So you go, great, you want to write this school. Now what do you do, right? Like, where are you? And then you can see if, hey, like, get some like free advice and consulting. Maybe it's a good fit to have Colin or Rich or somebody walk beside you because, like we said, it's nice to have a guide and a coach. Right? So you have that, and that's completely free. You just have to take advantage of it, right? That should come from the kid, not from the parent, right? Then the third thing, actually there's 2 more things because I got to bring up the Snyders. The second thing is that what you guys saw, if you guys saw when you guys came in, there was the 3D image of the new golf room. So the new golf room is opening about 200 yards down the street. It's 16,000 square feet. It's 12 bays, 4,000 square foot short game area with like 7 different types of grasses in it. It's got putt view. The place is going to be, I know I'm biased because it's mine, but I honestly think it's going to be the nicest in the entire world. It's going to be absolutely insane. Anyway, so inside this facility, we basically have an elite junior academy that got ranked best academies in America. Everything that those college coaches talked about is what we are doing inside the academy. Yes, are we going to make your golf swing amazing? 100%. That's why the kids have taken off 11 shots in 6 months in their scoring average. Are you going to be working out 2 days a week with a top 50 trainer in the world with Lindsay? Absolutely. That's amazing, right? She trains Jason J, President's Cup team. That's great. Are we going to do the college recruiting for you? Yes. Are you going to be doing course management and playing lessons and tournament scheduling and nutrition plans and sleep patterns? All of that stuff. But most importantly is we are taking ownership of like you and the things outside the lessonty that make you attractive to college coaches. Because it's about your character and your hearts, which is really what the team, myself, and TGR is about matters of your heart. Yes, we are going to make you swing it amazing, but it's really about you as human beings. So like those high school kids, they're in here every day, Monday through Thursday, after school till 6, and we are investing like 320 hours with you guys in 6 months. So it gives you a really good taste of what college golf is like. And some of you guys will be like, this is great. Some of you guys will say, wow, that is a lot, and I actually don't want to do this. And that's okay too, right? And then we have stuff for middle school programs. I don't think there's any middle schools in here, maybe a couple. But like this academy is like the bread and butter of what we do. And with that, if I can invite Sean and Jackie up, we've got a really, really cool partnership with a foundation called JES and Us. I'm going to have Jackie kind of talk to you a little bit about it, but it's in memory of their son, Jack. Jack was actually, I started coaching in 2016. I played professional golf for, 8 years, and then traveling with my wife. She says, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore with 3 kids. So I opened the facility, and Jack was actually one of my first 3 students that I worked with. And with this, we have partnered with the Academy, and you guys could probably talk about for an hour in regards of how amazing it is, and just give a lecture to the parents, because that would be good, but that's for another time. But they have partnered with our Academy to offer 2 special people an opportunity, potentially, to take part with it. So if you want to...
I hope I don't talk as fast as you.
I'm so excited!
Hi, I'm Jackie Snyder. This is my husband, Sean Snyder, and as Kyle said, our youngest child, Jack Snyder, was one of the first junior golfers in the Academy. He passed away. He's in heaven now, a year and a half ago, and we started a foundation as soon as he passed, and we offer scholarships for the 6-month Winter Academy here at the golf room, and we also offer scholarships to the golf
League
junior tour. So we pay the registration fees to enter into the tournament all summer long, as well as the travel expenses. And so last year, I think we ended up awarding over $40,000.
We've given away about $45,000.
So we're opening it up again. There have been several young people that have applied, but if any of you are interested in applying, we are going to be awarding this fairly quickly. So every information that you would need is on the
Yeah, it's on the website. So regarding that, we will send that out in the email as well. I know it's kind of fast, but we would really like the applications for the scholarship in by the end of the week. Or there is an open house for Academy next Tuesday at 5, and then orientation for Academy is on Wednesday. So it's like right here, right? So.
But we will not be back in town until the 6th.
Yes, so but we need them in by the end of the week, so that way we can scuffle through them. But the stuff that they've been doing for, to just say a little bit about Jack, everything that these college coaches, and not to make this too emotional because I'll probably start crying here soon, but everything that these college coaches are looking for in a player, Jack had. Right? Like the kid radiated a room and you could not love Jack. He was impossible to not love. And that is what we are looking for, the embodiment inside this scholarship, is who is a reflection where if we look at you, we see Jack. Right? We've had 2 amazing people last year, well 3 actually, 4. 2 of them are gone right now. They're not with us right now, but 2 with Brady Fox, who was amazing recipient last year. He will be getting it this year as well. And he went from, I think he went from 900 in junior golf scoreboard ranking to 375th, so like crazy amount of improvement. And then Bella Mitchell, she came in, she joined us in the spring, and she went from shooting like 65 on 9 holes to like 40 last week, which has been awesome. So she has been great. So we're looking for 2 more people. So that was so we got the open house next thing, the scholarship, the database for free. Anything else, Richie?
We'll be here for questions.
Yeah, we'll be here for questions. Is there anything else? But thank you so much. Hopefully you guys can join us, if nothing else, in January. The new facility should open hopefully the first of the year. When Santa Claus comes, I'm moving the facility over, so you can pray for me for that. And thank you so much for coming, and appreciate you guys for being here. So thank you.